Doc, people listen to us for nonsense, and we give it to them in spades. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. Some would even say, on our best days, malarkey. Braves, defending champs. Boy, it sure would be a shame if there was no season next year and we were just still the defending champs.
Also, this guy that got hit, how old was he?
46.
What a loser, just sissy man. You just got punched in the face by a 90-year-old man? Come on, dude.
I'll bet Doc is like the Sinbad of Ames, Iowa.
Oh,
because people, I didn't realize, I thought it was just a Doc thing with the corn jokes. Iowa people love corn jokes.
Well, you know what they say, knee high by July, baby.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's killing in the Midwest right now. I'm sure when that hits their ears, they're like, that Doc, he gets us.
Doc, what do I love more than anything? That's right, an angry football team.
I prefer to think of Warsaw as like a battle of who's the best saw, right? So you have like a sawzall, you have a skill saw, you have a hacksaw, handsaw. It's just a battle of saws till the death.
Welcome to the Spaghetti Junction Boys podcast, coming to you from beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. I am your host, as always, joined here by the incomparable Doc Jacobson. Before we get things started here, we want to thank our friends over at Manscaped. Support for the Spaghetti Junction Boys podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code SJBAtlanta at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 8 million balls. It's time to take care of yourself, so go to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the code SJBAtlanta at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code SJBAtlanta. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Glad I didn't do the long read again. That almost just had me blue last week. Which, speaking of my body failing me, I had a really, really rough realization yesterday. So, as you know, I've exercised a good bit, trying to stave off father time. It's my own Michael versus father time, like the Brady Facebook show.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have friends all the time who are just like, oh man, don't you hate those random pains when you're getting out of bed in the morning? Or, yeah, I walked 2 miles today and I know I'm going to feel it tomorrow and stuff like that. And I don't get those. And I feel like an avenger every time someone tells me about those, because I'm like, doesn't hit me, because I get 10,000 plus steps a day. You know, I'm getting this workout in, that workout in. But then the hammer of justice hit me yesterday. And it hit me with a sitcom stereotypical kind of way, in that it came from men's league softball. Wednesday night was our softball league playoffs, and it's win and move on. And so we played one game, we won the semifinal game, we moved on, and then we won the championship. Wonderful. And then the next day, and I did no stretching, by the way, because of course I did. I did not stretch one iota before I did high burst running for 3 straight hours of sedentary movement and then high burst movement. And my upper body feels fine. I dove a lot, so I feel good that I can still dive. And I slid into second at one point. I feel good that I can still do that without injuring myself. But I think it was from the short bursts of running, because here we are recording this on a Friday morning, and my quads and hamstrings are still just shot. I was crossing my legs in a meeting yesterday and audibly groaned from the pain and crossing my legs.
So, if so facto, I'm in better shape than you because I can go play 3 hours of basketball and not have said pains.
I think basketball's different because
Basketball's easier than softball.
No, I didn't say it's easier. I said it's different. Or did I say it was easier? I thought I said
No,
different.
you said different, but I was jumping, taking a jump.
Doc was ready to pounce, not unlike the bear behind him.
Yes.
And I was just an oblivious salmon swimming downstream when Doc just jumped at me. No, basketball, you're continuously moving. You're always moving, unless you're just a cherry picking asshole. But you're continuously moving. Whereas softball, you're sedentary. You're sitting on the bench, or against the fence, or you're standing at your position for a while doing nothing, and then you're running full speed, whether it's after a ball, whether it's running the bases, and so forth. So it's just a lot of short trigger, high burst running. And a lot of basketball, like, I mean, if you're cutting, you're running, but a lot of it is also, well, it's steady movement, a lot of jogging here and there. Whereas, if I hit a ground ball, I'm booking it to first. Or someone hits one in the gap, I'm trying to get every extra base I can, and so forth. And so it's really high burst movement, because when I run a 7-minute, 7.5-minute mile, like I ran, I think 10 miles on Sunday, and it I'm saying that didn't affect my body. Like I was running faster in the small windows I was running at softball than I was when I was running on the treadmill, and my body didn't hurt later Sunday night. It didn't hurt Monday. It felt like as if I did nothing if I had sat on the sofa all night. But man, that the short burst just killed me. And I just think to Daryl in the office when he's talking about how many years of softball he has left in his knees. I was like, shit, man. For 2 days, at least, who knows how I'll be feeling tomorrow? For at least 2 days, my upper legs are just done from softball. I'm 32. Is this the beginning of the end? Is this when the page has turned?
Yeah, Father Time just had this one day earmarked in his book of Michael for probably the last 5 years. Like, we're gonna let him, just go ahead and run and train and get ready to run marathons and feel really good about himself. But this day right here, we're gonna make his body fall apart from softball. I think it was just in the writing, as they say.
Man, it's a tough scene. I feel like a total asshole for it because I was just so on my high horse. When I was in my mid to late 20s and I was fat and everything hurt doing everything. I mean, I just walked to the fridge to get more cookies or go to the freezer to get more ice cream and then get back to the sofa and be like, oh, never again. I'm not doing that shit one more time. I'm gonna be feeling that till noon tomorrow. But then I just got this hubris, and it's caught up to me, and pretty soon I'm going to be making the dad groans getting out of a recliner, and that I'm worried about.
Yeah, it's never a good feeling when you have those groans. I've had them myself. It's just kind of like, what the hell's wrong with me? Akin back to the times of my early youth where 18, 19 years old, putting up heavy weight in the gym. And I'm like, God, man, to be that age again would just be awesome. Do you have that kind of, that lure, that grandeur of wanting to be young again? Is this kind of like, is this setting your mindset that way? Or is this just a full on acceptance of I'm an old man now?
I guess I just worry for the passing of time because it's not as stark as you think it is when you're young. Because when you're young, you look at people who are in their 40s or 50s or wherever you set that bar of who's old and just go, oh, there's a day when you go from young to old instead of that gradualness. But if you talk to someone in their 40s or 50s, when they look in the mirror, they don't see someone in their 40s or 50s. They just still see that same person who used to be able to throw up heavy weights in the gym. And then they just get those small signs. And so I guess I'm just trying to be acute of when those signs are coming so I can make adjustments so that I just don't get old. But whenever I see those things on Twitter where it's like, would you take the red pill to have $50 million and fast forward to being 45 years old, or know everything that you know now, but restart your life at like 13? Every single time, like, why wouldn't you just restart your life at 13 unless you just really don't trust yourself? Because you'd be like, I know what industry I should go in. I know like what I should do in high school to get there and what I should do in college to get there, or just whatever goals that you want to get to and know how to get there. Like, it's not going into the past so that you can invest money in Tesla or anything. It's just having the knowledge of life you know now, but at a younger age. I would still pick younger every time.
Yeah, I was just more asking that question to make sure we weren't going to get CrossFit Michael, because I don't think I could stand CrossFit Michael.
No. I can't.
I,
I'm not throwing ropes and shit, because I don't want to tell you about CrossFit, and I know you don't want to hear me talk about CrossFit. I can't just be like, oh yeah, Doc, I just got back from the gym. I was throwing tires in an abandoned warehouse, and this guy named Todd with 1D was the one yelling at all of us to do it, and he was playing Darude over the speakers the whole time. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. Absolutely.
me and my iron brothers out here just staying hard.
Yeah, I can't be that guy.
Well, that's good to know. I think to answer your question, I think I'm on the side of not trusting myself and would have to go blue pill or red pill and go 45 with $50 million. I think that with the stifling of the growing pains and puberty and all that stuff, I'm out on that. I'm good. I'm happy where I'm at right now, and just have that kind of lump sum cash. And yeah, you're 45, but 45 is like half your life nowadays. It's not like it was back in the day. You know, most people are living in their late 80s, early 90s.
So you don't think, if all the knowledge you have now, if you're dropped back to being 13, that you couldn't get to $50 million in those 32 years?
Not unless I get into Bitcoin heavy, like you were saying, on the investing side. But even then you got to take a big hit halfway through. So I'm not trying to pull a Trevor Lawrence here. There's too many variables, and I think, going back in time, as you make different decisions, life turns different ways, right? You're not gonna have the exact same outcome. Making a different decision in your life isn't going to produce the same outcome. So, I think there's too many variables wrapped up into that one. You give me the dead set number at a dead set age, good to go.
Yeah, I guess it really wouldn't work for a lazy person, because they'd just be like, oh yeah, I know I should get into this field and I know how to get to that field, but shit, that sounds like a lot of work.
I got 10 years to get there. And then up there goes 10 years like that. Whoops.
Whoop. I had this conversation with someone a couple years ago, and it was, if you knew that you would live to be 85, but by like some wizard tells you, okay, I can give you your 4 college years back, like, not lose those memories, but you can live college as a college student right now for the next 4 years. How many years would you trade that wizard off the end of your life to do 4 years of college again?
I have to assume you have to go more than the years you're getting, right? So I would probably start at 5 and see where the negotiations go from there.
Well, what's your end point with
10.
this negotiation?
10.
With the wizard?
No, I'm not going more than 10.
Yeah,
10 years, a decade. That's a long time to just shave off the end of your life.
Yeah, I think 10 years is where everyone came in with that. Because you're just like, do I really want to be like shitting my pants and eating soft foods for that end of my life, and just waiting for my grandkids to come by when they don't really want to come by, because I smell weird, and I'm just falling asleep in the chair watching golf and eating supper at 5? Or could I just be listening to a lot of Avicii and having 15 Keystone Lights per afternoon? Like, that's the life.
That's where I realized I got old this year, was I can't do that anymore. 15 anything, done. Like, I am wrecked, dead, and put me in a coffin for 2 days. It sucks.
I'll tell you what, there's something that I've learned in the last couple years that is just so incredibly simple, and that's the hangover fix is just preemptively drinking water. Just drink water, a ton of water every single day, because I was more hungover in college than I get now. There are some days, don't get me wrong, it absolutely hits me like a Brinks truck, but uh, not all the time. And it's lesser than it's ever been. It's because I drink like 150 ounces of water a day, and so my body's just like, oh, I have water. I'm not hungover. And meanwhile, you have all these people who are creating companies with these pills and these gels and these powders and all this. And you have all those stupid IV places coming up where they're just like, hey, let's put a needle in your arm. Like, I'm sure this is all above board. And all you need to do is just drink water before and after.
I did one of those IV things in Vegas a couple weekends ago. Not worth it. Don't people. PSA, public service announcement. Do not spend your money on that. It helps for like 2 hours and then you're just dead again, and even worse
Isn't it
off.
a ton of money?
It was expensive. It was like $200.
Yeah, I remember seeing one of those. I had a friend who was going every Sunday to those because he was in his early 20s and just drinking. I was like, Jesus, man, the price alone. I don't care how much money you're making. That's still like a really dumb thing to spend so much money on.
There is like immediate gratification to it though. Like you do feel better immediately, but the long-term effect of it, I just did not. I couldn't get behind. I thought I was getting ripped off. It's like not worth it.
Well, let's get into the Super Bowl Sunday at 6:30. We have Chiefs and Eagles. For all the blustering that's gone on, and we might have talked about this last week, is when people just kept trying to find someone to usurp either of these, because these are the best teams in their conference. I mean, the Chiefs started a little bit slow, but were always right around there, and then they took over the AFC and just never really relinquished it. And then the Eagles, of course, had it the entire year as the last undefeated team in the NFL. And we kept trying to say, oh, the 49ers. The 49ers are the best team in the NFC. Some people were even going, oh, Aaron Rodgers is getting pretty hot going into that Week 18 game. Like what were we playing with there? The Eagles were statistically, like they weren't, in no offense, but the Vikings were a bit fraudulent.
Yeah,
And
that's a hard word there. Don't be throwing out that word. But I will say a little streaky.
They weren't a true contender. That wasn't a Super Bowl team. And that's why they fired their defensive coordinator immediately after, because it wasn't like, oh, we were so close. Like, no, great record, but kind of like when the Hawks were the 1 seed in the East the other year, and everyone's like, okay, I know Mike Muscala is not going to be a key part of an NBA Finals team, but people kept trying to find some glitch in the Eagles, even though they have a great pass defense. Jalen Hurts was an MVP candidate. They have an elite wide receiver. Their run game isn't as great as it should be, but it's something to respect. One of the best offensive lines in football. And then the Chiefs, like, oh, they lost Tyreek Hill. You're like, yeah, but that rebuilt offensive line is really good. Patrick Mahomes won the MVP last night. He's still obviously that dude. Andy Reid's still there. Eric Bieniemy's still there. They have a couple dudes on that defense. Defense isn't terribly impressive, but they have some young guys there who can make some plays. But we kept trying to talk ourselves into the Bills, even though they were showing us time and time again that they're not that team. They were building the last couple of years, and then this year they're just like, we can't take that extra step. And it looks like I may be speaking too early on this, but I think they may be on their descent as well. We were trying to crown the Bengals because of how hot they got, and they're the reigning AFC champs, but the Chiefs have been that team. And so this is a really good Super Bowl for me because you have this young up-and-coming guy in Jalen Hurts versus the best quarterback in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. You have Andy Reid going up against his former team who fired him for being incredibly good but not getting over that hump. And then Nick Sirianni, who, listen, I may catch flack for this. I don't think he's a great head coach. He has his team in the Super Bowl, but – I mean, come on. I just don't buy it with Sirianni. Maybe it's because he's not a traditional sounding coach. I'm sure a lot of people say that about my guy, Mike McDaniel. But I just don't buy it. I think he just has an insane accumulation of talent and a lot of really good assistants on that team, which maybe that's all that you really need to be a good head coach, is just a little in-game management and putting the right people around you. But I don't know, what's sort of intriguing you most in this game on the field?
You mentioned the offensive line of Kansas City, but you forgot to mention the defensive line of the Eagles. Holy cow, you want to talk about a star-studded defensive line. They are so good. We see the Chiefs get into trouble when Patrick Mahomes gets hit. I mean, take a look or a rewatch of the Jacksonville Jaguars game. Nobody thought they were going to get to Mahomes. They wrapped him up, dinged him up a couple of times, and that game was a lot closer than it should have been because of the pressure that was on Mahomes. I'm not saying he can't deal with the adversity and work through it. We've obviously seen him overcome that high ankle sprain. But I think that's where the Chiefs are going to struggle, is in that offensive-defensive line battle. And I think that might be the difference maker here. And that's where I'm a trench guy. I mean, just look at me. I'm all about the trenches. So I'm always focused on the trenches. Road graders, low man wins. There is going to be a battle.
Games are won and lost in the trenches.
Exactly. And it's where the dirtiest fights happen. I'm excited to watch.
Hey,
a lot of pass sets, a lot of rip moves, a lot of swims. We're going to see it all. It's going to be great.
Speaking of dirty fights, I totally forgot Ndamukong Suh was an Eagle till the NFC Championship. Yep. Totally forgot about that because I obviously know about Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and so forth. But you're right, and I think that's a big part of why their secondary has been so good. And why their pass defense is so good is because they are a nightmare on opposing quarterbacks. One thing that I heard that kind of hit me wrong was someone on ESPN asked the other day, it said, last time we saw Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, he was running for his life. Do you think that's a concern again? I may be off by 1 or 2 on this, but I'm almost certain that they replaced all 5 starters on that offensive line since then.
I believe you're correct.
It's kind of stupid to just say like, oh, just because those guys were Chiefs and these guys were Chiefs, it's the same thing. That's one of the dumbest things in all of sports media to me is when people are like, oh, this year Tennessee beating Alabama. People leading up to that game asking Tennessee players, are you worried? I mean, the streak is this, and are you worried it's going to continue? And blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the guys who were at Tennessee 15 years ago don't matter to the guys who are on Tennessee now. The guys who are on Alabama then don't matter to the guys on Alabama now. It's different players. Just because they're wearing the same laundry doesn't make them the same. It's not some sort of cursed laundry. If you're going coach to coach, if you're going, hey, this player hasn't beaten this team, like, okay, I understand that. But when you go to the laundry of it, that's asinine to me. But I think what's really interesting is that both teams, despite having their quarterbacks being the obvious stars of the team and their passing attacks being what everyone's paying attention to, the 2 great tight ends in Goddard and Kelce. Obviously, you have A.J. Brown on the Eagles, and then just guy who receives passes for the Chiefs. Just insert one here. Both teams are really going to have to run the ball well. Isaiah Pacheco is going to have to run the ball well on the Eagles for the Chiefs to win, which is a very strange thing to say.
And I think that's where the Chiefs struggle most offensively, is running the ball. I'd not say that they're not good at it. They show highlights of running the ball very well, but consistently game in, game out, I don't think that they don't run the ball unless Mahomes is going off, right? You have to focus on Mahomes in the pass game for them to run the ball. Whereas if that gets shut down, they're screwed. So I can't see them taking over a game by running the ball.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. Is the difference in this game Isaiah Pacheco or Miles Sanders? I don't know.
I think so. I think it is. I mean, I think that's where this game's won and lost, is who hits 100 yards first is probably who's going to win the game.
Yeah. I mean, it very well could be true, which is just, again, crazy to think about when it's Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. You know what really I'm very excited about this Super Bowl, even though I don't have a rooting interest in either team. And I know that you're the same way on this. And what really fucks me up about the Super Bowl is I saw a number the other day that was talking about how many people are estimated to watch the Super Bowl every year and how many are estimated to watch this year. And it's less than half of Americans. And that confuses the shit out of me because I talk all the time about people being in bubbles, socially, politically, socioeconomically, so forth. But I think I may really be in a bubble because that makes no damn sense to me. Is someone not watching the Super Bowl? Like, I could not imagine being in a place of not watching. Like, the Super Bowl is on, it's just like, oh, okay, but we have Buffy the Vampire Slayer reruns. Like, they moved The Last of Us new episode, the most popular show in America right now. They come out on Sunday nights on HBO. Sunday nights on HBO have been famous for years. They changed it to Friday this week so that it didn't pair up with the Super Bowl. And I just don't understand who the people are who are like, I brought this up to my wife, just screaming about this to my wife. She's like, you need to calm down about something that does not have an effect over anything. And I said, who the hell is not watching? She goes, well, what if their team's not in it? I was like, my team has not been in it my whole fucking life. And I watch it every year. And, but even if you don't like football, you don't like the commercials, some companies work for years on these. There's entire teams at certain companies who only work on the Super Bowl commercials. You're not interested in those? Oh, you don't like A-list music acts with big, grandiose performances? Doesn't interest you? Oh, you don't like getting together with friends and eating food and having drinks? Like, it's nothing hits you about this? That I just don't understand.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like one of those things, right? Where even if you don't have, I can't fathom either. If you don't have a rooting interest in the game, you're still going to have it on your TV. What are you going to put on, Simpsons reruns or something? Like, no, you're going to have the game on. You might not be paying attention to it. You might, get bombed by the second half because who gives a shit? You're not, your bets have all tanked and your props are all dead. Like,
this sounds personal. This sounds very personal.
It is. But hey, it has some fun.
You might get bombed in the second half. You may lose all your bets. Your name may be Doc. I don't know.
Yeah, and but that would be an interesting stat we need to get the interns on, is a bar graph or something, or some sort of graph to show us the viewership each year. And I have to imagine it's always going up. I can't imagine there's a down year. Otherwise, the NFL would be, in a world of hurt for a down year of nobody watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else going on. Like, what? You're going to go to watch, I don't know, a movie? No.
That's what I don't understand is, what are you doing? Like, I like the significance of things where I'll at least participate in that just because it's a big deal. Like, I don't really give a shit about the Olympics. Just leveling with everyone. I don't really give that much of a shit. But I'll watch it usually. Like, I'll watch a good bit of it just because I'm like, it's every 4 years. It's the Olympics, whatever. But then I also watch a single award show. Yeah, I talked about this with someone the other day who was like, you don't watch the Grammys? I was like, no. Like, what about the Oscars? I was like, not 1 second of it. Not 1 second of any of them. I love sports. I don't watch the ESPYs. The NFL, fuck out of here with your whole NFL honors night. I don't give a shit. I'll find out who won the MVP. I tried to tune in to see when they were going to announce the Pro Bowlers, and then it was like, I just saw George Kittle singing with Kelly Clarkson in the most horrible dress I've ever seen. And I was like, yeah, no, pass, turned it off. I watched it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we got to take it with a grain of salt with what you're saying, because you are someone that consistently watches the NFL draft every year, which is also insane.
Yeah, that's dumb of me.
But just talking from an aspect of, let's say you're not a sports guy, but you work in an office setting, just watch the Super Bowl. It's all people are going to talk about that Monday back. Like, just sprinkle in a little bit here and there, get a couple of points. Oh, did you see that Patrick Mahomes no look pass? I'm sure there's going to be one of those on Sunday.
Yeah. All you got to do.
That's just a good way. Start the office banter.
you brought something up that you're interested in seeing during our pre-show, and that's the one who has the most unique viewing experience of this whole thing, and that's Jason and Travis Kelce's mom.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome to see her come out. I don't understand that split jersey she was wearing. Every split house jersey I've seen is right down the middle on the numbers. So I don't know why she didn't go with a traditional jersey like that, but it was still kind of cool, a little different abstract take on it. She brought cookies, which is a nice touch. Great mom there. But I have to imagine she has to be the most polarly charged person watching this game with both of her sons being on different sides of the football, and just being an Eagles player, offensive lineman, and, of course, Travis Kelce, probably the greatest tight end to ever play the game. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of camera views of her. Do you think she wears the split jersey again at the Super Bowl? Or is she going to class it up a little bit?
I don't
She's
know.
from Ohio, so I don't know. It's a real flick in the air.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. It's because it's really hard to figure out who to root for her, because both of them already have one. So it's not like if one of them had one and one of them didn't, I'm sure she'd be rooting for the other one to get one. And so maybe she goes for the youngest. Maybe she's rooting for Travis because, maybe she loves the baby more. Or maybe she loves the oldest more. Maybe she goes for Jason in that. Maybe she has a favorite and she just doesn't want anyone to know, and she won't tell anyone.
In my opinion, she should go for Jason, not from the Eagles aspect. What?
Because he's retiring sooner?
Well, that, and also you get him 2 Super Bowls, that automatically kind of puts him in the talk for the Hall of Fame, where Travis Kelce could quit tomorrow and is already a Hall of Famer.
That's a good point. It's tough for a center to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
so you've got to do some winning, because even in the year of our Lord 2023, we are still so bad at grading offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
We're still just like, oh, they didn't give up many sacks. Like, it's because they have Lamar Jackson, who can escape them pretty easily. But who's got to be really angry about this is Mrs. Diggs, because she's seeing all this attention for the Kelce brothers and for the Kelce mom, and she's got to know in her heart of hearts, the Cowboys and Bills are not meeting in the Super Bowl again anytime soon. I know they did 30 years ago, but that's not happening again. You're not going to get this spotlight, unfortunately. You can watch your sons go against each other in the Pro Bowl games in Vegas, or if they go to Orlando. It's not going to be in the Super Bowl, Mama Diggs. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's got to be some real sour grape situation right there.
Well, let's get into a couple of the prop bets that have been coming across. I'm not sure if any have jumped out to you on these. I always love the first touchdown score, just going through what the script's going to be. Right now, the favorite's Travis Kelce at plus 700. That's got to be it for me. Like I can't put myself anywhere else unless you can get it in really last minute after the coin toss, and then just get it for whoever's going with the ball. The MVP is fine. Like, some of these player props are interesting, but more of what I like are the in-betweens, where you get into the Gatorade shower, whether you get into what's the first commercial that's going to appear. But obviously, as well as I do, the easiest money in all of God's green earth and prop bets is the over and the national anthem. And my theory on this is this. This is their big moment. So you have all these people who are trying to time past ones, or we had some guy at SoFi Stadium clocking someone last year and how long they were going. My theory is this. This is this musician's big moment. Whether they're a football fan or not, if you're singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl, your ego is enormous in this moment. And you're going, this is about me. At least for this amount of time, this is about me. And what do we see in all of human history when people have their moment? They take advantage of, oh, this is my moment. I've just got to really make it last for as long as possible. Like, you ever see certain ministers or officiants of a wedding who aren't officially ministers, and they just like really, really make it about them, and they just make it a long thing because they're the one talking in front of lots of people. That's this to the billionth degree. And so you're just going to have, I don't even know who's singing the anthem.
It's Chris Stapleton, which
he holds a note like a motherfucker.
It's even more.
You could give me 10 minutes and I'll take the over. It's going to go on forever because they're just going to hold notes, and then they're going to have to take deep breaths to recalibrate their lungs and keep going. They're not going to breeze through that shit. Are you kidding me? No. Bet the house on the over in the national anthem every year.
I agree, especially Chris Stapleton. I mean, he took Tennessee whiskey and made an 8-minute rendition of a 3-minute song. So, I mean, all the stars are lining up that, yes, the over is going to hit. The only thing that kind of tickles my brain is him being kind of a country singer and kind of the allure that they put on like American traditions and trying to like not get through it quick, but just, give it the solemn and the honest approach that they need to give it. That's the only thing that's kind of maybe twitching me the other way. But like you said, I mean, holding the notes, it's Chris Stapleton. I mean, it's gonna go over. I mean, you could give him 4.5 minutes and it's going over.
Any props stand out to you that you're interested in?
Always love the coin flip. Usually a tails guy, but I watched one guy on TikTok flip 1,000 coins and hit heads way more. I said that to you.
No one has ever wasted their time more than that guy.
That was a really funny video. Like halfway through, he was like, "I fucking hate this. This is awful." He's still got like a roll of like 10 quarters sitting in front of him.
Carpal tunnel in your thumb.
Yeah. So I'm usually going tails there. So I like that. Gatorade color, love that. There's one other prop bet I was thinking. Mahomes rush yards, whatever it is, probably over. I think he can break out and just break a couple of 50-yarders real quick. Even Hurts with the over rush yards. He loves to run the ball too. And I think that's where we're going to see kind of some big explosive plays happen in this game is kind of a QB run.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into Gambling Dan's, our last Gambling Dan's of the football season. Doc, we're looking at an over-under for this game of 50.5. Where are you leaning?
Over. I'm leaning over. Everything in my heart tells me, the Philadelphia defense is going to lock them down, and the under is looking juicy too. But it's the NFL. It's the Super Bowl. It's the highest stage. What puts asses in seats in the NFL? That's big scores. Nobody wants to watch a Patriots-Rams game again like we had in Atlanta a couple years ago where it's a fucking 9-3 game at half. Yeah, like just awful. It's going to be a shootout. I mean, that's what the NFL is going to drive to put asses in seats is a shootout here. And the script. I mean, it's all over the Instagram. There's a script. The script has it at 71.
I'm super worried about this over-under because I think it's going to be close. I could see it being a 28-24 game. I could see it being 27-21. I just can't do the under. My brain wants me to do the under, but I can't do it. I just think it sneaks over. There's some injuries in that secondary for Kansas City that I think can be exploited by Goddard, Brown, and Devontae Smith. Maybe like a Quez Watkins deep catch. He always seems to be good for one of those every now and again. And then Kansas City, I know that Pacheco will need to have a decent game, but you're not going to take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. This isn't going to be a Bears situation where they, win the Super Bowl without letting Walter Payton be Walter Payton. So I think that they'll let Mahomes do it, and I'm not going to bet against Mahomes having success because that's a fool's errand. So for the spread, we currently have, and this is flip-flopped a little bit. I believe it opened Eagles and then went to Chiefs and then back to Eagles. But right now what I'm seeing is Eagles minus 1.5.
I love Kansas City as an underdog here, but kind of similar mindset of what you're saying is you got your head and you got your heart and how you're going to bet it. And I just got to go Kansas City here plus 1.5. I'm not an Eagles fan. I do not like the city of Philadelphia. The fans are terrible. The people are terrible. I would not like to see them win another Super Bowl. So give me Kansas City plus 1.5 and money line.
I'm going to be rooting for Kansas City because I really like Big Red. I like Big Red. I don't mean the Western Kentucky mascot. I mean the airplane prankster Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to go Philadelphia minus 1.5. Just because they are just so loaded everywhere. When you're thinking about what that team is lacking, it's just tough. They can stop you running the ball. The only thing you can really think of is how well they can run it. But when you have a guy like Dallas Goedert, who's a great safety net, and you have a guy like Devontae Smith, who's a great route runner and can beat you in the slot or can stretch the field a bit, you can use passing as you're running the ball. Even though Miles Sanders doesn't terribly catch a ton of passes, you do have Kenny Gainwell, who's a really good receiver out of the backfield. I just don't see them getting stopped very often. I don't trust Kansas City's defense, even though they have Spags. I think that Patrick Mahomes will get his, but I trust Philadelphia's defense more than I trust Kansas City's. And I really wish that I was making this pick on one of my favorite dumbass things about the Super Bowl, which is every single zoo having an animal that they claims is really good at picking these games. And I look at that like I look at Twitter betting gurus, where we post our damn losses. I'll tell you that. I don't delete shit. Doc doesn't delete shit. We eat our losses. There's dudes on Twitter who are like, hey, everyone, come follow the king. 20-2 in my last 22. And you're just like, hey, what's that week of just no tweets that was out there? Huh, buddy? What will happen there? And you'll see it, and you'll follow a couple of them, and then they lose, and you don't see that tweet anymore. What's that about? But every single zoo, like I looked it up earlier, and it was a baby giraffe at the Des Moines Zoo makes Super Bowl pick. A giraffe at the at this other zoo made a pick. A sea lion at the Arizona Zoo made a pick. A baby elephant at the Fort Worth Zoo made a pick. Like they have all these animals who are making picks on these things, whether it's like something that they eat or something that they're going to nudge, like a toy or something. It's otters and pandas and shit. That's usually how I like to pick the Super Bowl, and I just haven't had the opportunity this year to do my deep dive into zoos, but maybe next year.
So your ideal way to pick the Super Bowl would be a Key West style turtle race with Eagles painted on one shell, Kansas City painted on the other.
I mean, the hermit crab races, that was my shit. I lost a lot of money on some hermit crab races back in the day, but yeah, that's actually how I want to do most things in life. It's not animals, but one of the funniest ways I've heard someone make a decision is T.Y. Hilton, when he was in school, high school, was trying to decide between Florida International and Ole Miss. And he put out a onesie for each school and had his baby crawl to which one. And she crawled to FIU, and that's why he went to FIU.
It's ballsy, but if you're good enough talent, it don't matter.
Yeah. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. I'm sure you are locked and loaded for the Super Bowl now after this. And please pray for me and my aching joints. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you next time.